to Dr. Steve Axelrod, who comes to the table with a significant experience working in a number of different healthcare issues, and he'll speak to us today about his TabSafe medical service system. Steve has worked in both ambulatory, pharmacy, and health-related services. He's, for over 30 years, been developing different companies, and his most recent major company was he was CEO of SeniorMed. So with that, we'll turn it over to hear about a telemedicine solution.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here. We were uniquely honored with the Innovation and Design Award for Health and Wellness. There weren't that many admissions to that kind of award, and it's great to see the amount of increased interest in this arena. The digital health pavilion, I think, is 3 times or 4 times larger than it was last year, and it's great to see that happen. Am I pointing? Where am I pointing? It works. All right, I'm a doc, and I got interested. I'm actually a board-certified emergency physician that went from the first 24 hours of care to the last 24 hours of care. I had aging parents. I watched all those increasing needs as they continue to age, and I looked for opportunities to figure out a way to keep people maintain their independence longer and to allow them to live independently as long as possible. For the last 15 years, or up till about 2007, I was running a geriatric pharmacy, basically taking care of seniors in assisted living, 10,000 or more every day, watching kind of all the issues with both the prescribing side, but also the issues even in caregiving situations where even with professional caregivers, the number of medications that were being missed or the problems that were generated were huge. So really what I got involved with was how to bring that healthcare home. While it's great that we have assisted living and CCRCs, as we've said before, we're never going to have enough places for people or that they could afford. And the majority of seniors, 85% of them, live in their own homes, about a third of which live alone. So what we went into was to try to address reducing the caregiver burden. 1 in 4 households does take care of people, and then on the other side of the equation, 1 in 4 people move into nursing homes only because they can't manage their medications. So this is a significant issue that for the most part has been much overlooked. 51% of all the prescriptions in the United States are not taken as they're prescribed. And so this is a serious problem that for the most part we haven't really had a good way to address. We've talked about the size of the population and the demographics in the wave. On our website, we do have a boomer counter. We're already up to 70,000. As was mentioned, 10,000 a day will turn 65 for the next 20 years, and that's going to be a significant burden on Medicare as each one of them becomes Medicare eligible. But our focus is on not just maintaining kind of the general wellness of the population, although I would encourage that every way that I can, but particularly those people that have multiple chronic diseases. We see oftentimes, if you go down on the floor, you see a technology that may be for one disease or a different disease. And I think what we're seeing here is that there's a lot of us that want to collaborate to be able to integrate those kinds of different features that people need so that we can address kind of multiple issues at the same time. That 8.5 million people that have 5+ chronic diseases account for a third of all Medicare expenditures, half of Medicaid expenditures, or 45%. And on average take 10 or 11 medications. So this is a challenging population. I started to mention that medication adherence is a big problem. It's also global. World Health Organization just recently released an article that if we could control the consumption of medications appropriately, that we could reduce worldwide healthcare expenditures by 5 to 10% just by doing that. This idea that just in and of itself, people not taking the medications as they're prescribed or the combinations of medications, I think a gentleman mentioned a session or two ago, supplementals, nutritionals, vitamins. These are big issues that are going mostly ignored, and there's very little way to know what people are taking or if they're taking it. As a physician, if I'm changing a person's care plan based on the fact that they're not responding to antihypertensive medications, but really they're just missing a certain number of doses, how am I really managing that care? And in truth, people are home 8,600 hours a year, and they're sitting in front of me in an office maybe 2 hours in a year. The TabSafe medication management system is an in-home device. I won't go through the details of it, but it securely stores medications. It alerts somebody to take them when it's due. It also alerts people to check their vital signs like blood sugar, blood pressure, those kinds of things, as well as some of the alerts for activities of daily living. I may have a doctor's appointment, or Thursdays I should water my plants, and those kinds of things. The feedback loop for people makes it much easier for us to adopt better behaviors. So in addition, as the pills are dropped, if a person does not kind of open and close the drawer that they are dropped into, then alarms go off, but more importantly, in 30 minutes, phone calls start being made. Back first to the end user, then to caregivers. It's basically a special application computer that's at the bedside, so allows for, and with a web portal, allows for either web-based programming or the device can be programmed when you're standing in front of it. So it allows for a lot of flexibility. One of the unique features, there's a number of unique features of our technology, but one of them is that we can manage as needed medications. So pain pills, sleeping pills, the things that mom may only take in certain situations that are very difficult to control become very problematic. We have a lovely lady, Ann, who lived 9 years in assisted living after having a stroke at a relatively early age because she'd had 2 accidental overdoses on medications. And hated the place that she was living because supposedly she was young, too young to be there. I mean, this is Ann speaking. And having said that, when put on a medication management system, it allowed her to move into an independent setting and save the family about $2,000 a month, and at the same time make her feel like she's in control of her own kind of medications and her own life. So what we added this year, and part of the reason I think that we got the Innovation Award, was that we now correlate, part of our patent is that we now correlate the blood pressure or the glucose readings to the actual medication dropping. So in other words, if somebody takes their blood pressure every day at 9, but they take their antihypertensive at 8, you should see an effect of that medication. If they take their blood pressure at 9 but take that pill at noon, I may see a completely different picture. This allows us to not only see that people are taking their meds without calling every day to remind them to do so, but also it allows us to basically be able to correlate that information more precisely. So we have a dashboard that can switch from week to day, you know, a week view to a month view. You can drill down on any of the items that are in it. This shows what's in the device. The device, because it's filled, can keep perpetual inventory, so when it needs a refill, it sends an alert for that. If somebody's overusing anything, it would send an alert for that. And the PRNs, the kinds of as-needed medications, can be set to actually lock somebody out for a duration so that they can't actually access it. In addition, I don't know. Yeah, so I'll quickly just go over one last thing. We all are talking about how we can improve people's lives. I think one of the issues that I think is very kind of near and dear to my heart is that while monitoring events when they happen, you know, fall detection is very important because how long somebody's laying on the floor is very important. It would be great if we could apply technology to preventing those events. And when it relates to medications and medication complications, I mean, this is a significant problem. This causes 30 to 40% of all hospitalizations in seniors are medication related. So the thought is that if we could have a better control of that, if we could have a more proactive approach to seeing things that could potentially be problems, we can save lots of emergency department visits, lots of hospitalizations, lots of money, and actually improve qualities of life. So with that, as the reimbursement goes, with the healthcare reform, we're seeing new openings in what we're talking about. Just this idea of post-acute care transitions is a significant issue that finally, I guess, the economic incentives are being put into place to drive people to want to get the better outcomes. But medications is one of the 5 pillars. The other is how fast does somebody get into a primary care doc? So what we're engaged in is to do a citywide program in a large metropolitan area in Texas that in conjunction with a hospitalist physician group in the hospital and a house call group that sees frail elderly in their own homes. Those patients will be transitioned from the hospital, will be sent